Hey, welcome Lifespans class. This is Dr. Ang coming in to welcome you to week 11. And this week, hopefully you're rested from a little bit of a break, and wanted to welcome you to chapters 15 and 16. It is middle adulthood, and the Erik Erikson's psychosocial stage is generativity versus stagnation. And that stage is specific to also what we refer to as oftentimes the sandwich generation. And that is an individual that finds themselves sandwiched between generations that are requiring additional support, and thus limiting the time that the individual would have for themselves and prioritizing their needs. So this would be an adult that's working to try and raise kids, put dependents through college, raising different ages and stages of children and dependents, simultaneously also now shouldering needs of maybe aging parents or caregivers. So finding themselves nestled between two sets of individuals that need their attention and that they want to be there for, however, also needing to prioritize their work responsibilities, home responsibilities, health responsibilities, and all the things that come with this stage. Generally speaking, this stage is roughly between the ages of 40 and 60, and it's when the critical years of career-wise and family-wise, there's occasionally divorces, blending of families, remarriages, and now raising other kids and balancing all of these things, as well as in an empty nester syndrome, when kids are raised and they leave home, and that can either re-energize a marriage or that can cause a strain as both partners try to determine an identity of their own that has often been swept up in that of the children in the home, vying for that time and attention, and can quickly become the identity for the home. So trying to re-navigate life together, and sometimes marriages can handle that and survive that, and then occasionally we find that that's too much for that relationship to handle. So again, we mentioned sometimes individuals will find themselves alone again, or they may find themselves dating again, or just trying to revisit that partner in that marriage and try to rekindle that. In a job and career-wise, they're reaching the point of being an expert in certain roles, and now more so than trying for increased education or job opportunities, a lot of times it'll shift to more of a mentoring role. You're now perceived as the expert in your field, and will you take that to pour into those coming behind, which oftentimes will allow a sense of fulfillment for an individual in middle adulthood. It also is a time, as when you come through the teenage years and the young adulthood, there are a lot of choices being made, whether it's health related, nutrition, exercise, education, things for self-improvement and self-promotion. And did you take those opportunities? Because now what you planted in those years, you will start to reap the product of that, what you planted. So if nutrition was not a priority, exercise was not a priority. You maybe found yourself thinking, you know what, partying and all of that seems more appealing to me than going to school and staying to the grind and demonstrating grit through those tough years. Maybe you steered away from that, or relationships that were important to you. And now this individual can find themselves in their 40s and thinking, man, I wish I would have finished school, or I wish I would have taken that opportunity, or I wish I would have invested in those years, in those relationships, and possibly even in the lives of my kids. It's just a priority time to kind of regroup and think, did I make the best choices? Because now I am living the consequences of those choices. What didn't seem like a big deal in my 20s now is a big deal. The consequences of poor nutrition, or lack of exercise, or making time just for those self-improvements and being mindful of that in your 40s will, textbook-wise, typically, now I do have the cardiac concerns, or I do have, they're speaking to me about obesity and diabetes and things that I didn't realize would actually take root. And it's a lot harder to make the changes. So coupling that with the stressors in jobs and relationships and in life in general, sandwiched between, if you have kids and dependents and you have parents or caregivers that now need you, your support has flipped and now relies on you, that can create a nest of stress. And some individuals will have the support in place and the coping mechanisms in place and those tools in their tool belt to be able to navigate that very, very well. And although it's tough, they have exercised the grit and determination to get through things that are hard and challenging. And some do not. Thus, there also, if you look at the statistics, there's an increase even in abuse during this stage, abusing substances, abusing whether it's physical or verbal abuse to those around you, can take place and take root in this stage because of the mounting stress of caring not only for yourself, those coming behind, and those that have went before. And just those are things to be mindful of. Knowing again, empty nesting syndrome for a lot of tends to be in the past traditionally was females. Not as much now. It tends to be for both. But if you have found your identity in your child, their activities, whatever that is, then they launch off into life and you find yourself searching for that identity. So therefore, it's good, mindful, wise to identify these things and be mindful before individuals get to this point. But this is just an overview to see the generativity. Are they investing in the generations that are coming behind and those that have went before? Do they feel productive? Do they feel fulfilled? This is a positive stage, if that is the case. If not, and they're facing the consequences of not the wisest choices that have now taken root over 10, 15, 20 years, health-wise or relationship-wise or career-wise, there can instill a sense of stagnation. So as you do your clip for this stage, just take this through. This may be your parents. This may be someone that you know or have observed, or a neighbor or family friend, or someone you've met even recently, but highlight an example of this stage, and then take note also for yourself as coming through young adulthood. Like, what decisions are you making now that will impact your future when you're in middle adulthood? Are those positive or are they negative? Because it is good to have that forward-thinking mentality. But that will be due, the flip will be due Sunday by midnight. When we've got another exam out of the way now, and we're looking at just one more. And please make note, character analysis presentation, and then the final reflective paper. We want to make sure we get those ahead of time, and if you look and review the syllabus, you'll see that they actually have quite a bit of points associated to them. So I'd like to encourage you, get those in. If you want, come in and let's visit, and I'd love to help you set you up for success for those assignments. And again, always welcome to come by and visit and submit those early. I greatly appreciate that. But just have fun this week, week 11 on middle adulthood. And as always, I am here to help in any way that I can. Take care.